Hello, I'm Dr. Anil Godi. I'm a consultant in reproductive medicine, surgery and assisted conception at the Homerton Fertility Center. And today we're going to talk about, does repeated egg collection lower AMH levels? This is something which we often are asked by patients, that if they have repeated stimulation of ovaries and repeated egg collections, their AMH levels may go down. So let's have a look at the basics. And the basics now suggest that the AMH is produced by granular cells of preantral follicles. It is the earliest and the best marker for aging. It's unaffected by exogenous hormones. It shows moderate intercycle and intracycle variations, and FSH stimulation does not affect AMH levels, and that's important. And we think that repeated egg collection does not lower AMH levels. We do not know if repeated egg collections will lead to a subtle decline in ovarian reserve. So what was the aim of this study? The aim of this study was that if serum AMH significantly decreased with each egg donation cycles, assess the utility of AMH as a marker for ovarian reserve, and AMH is associated with oocyte yield, and we know that. So these were 36 women who are undergoing 167 repeated oocyte collection between 29 and 30 years old, 3 or more oocyte collections, and the number of cycles were limited to sex, except in one case where they had 7 cycles. Total dose of FSH, E2, HCG trigger, donor age, and time interval was noted. AMH was calculated, and that was used through this treatment cycle. So what did they say? They found out that between cycle 3, 4, and 5, the AMH levels did not decline. In one group, they saw a slight increase in AMH levels, but that was not very significant. So what is it telling us? It's telling us that repeated egg collections do not decline ovarian reserve. So in 6 cycles, in those donor patients, there did not seem to be a decline in the AMH levels. Though the time frame, again, the AMH did not decline. And we think that repeated egg collections are unlikely to reduce the pool of primordial follicles. Now, why is that? Let's have a look at the triangle which I often draw. The very small follicles, the primordial follicles, are unaffected by FSH stimulation. So in fact, you can't change it. So what can you change? And this is the basis of whatever I teach. So what can we change? And we can change only those follicles which we can see. So antral follicles which we can see are the only follicles which will be stimulated. So if you don't stimulate them, it's likely that they will disappear and go into atresia. So, and that is one of the main things which you should be telling your patients. The other question which also is asked is, does FSH stimulation accelerate recruitment? And we don't know that. So let's say FSH, we keep on giving FSH, and the follicles from the primordial, do they start getting recruited at a faster rate? And we just don't know that. There are again concerns that ovarian drilling may cause trauma and damage and release autoantigens, and that's again a theoretical discussion. So there's another study which looked at 284 donors with 2 repetitive cycles, and the number of and quality of oocytes was maintained. So the second question is, does AMH show variability? In this study, the variability was around 12%, but it's also noted that intercycle variability up to 28% may be possible. So let's say, what does this study tell us? It tells us that in case that repeated oocyte collections do not decrease AMH levels. What we do not know is, does giving FSH start the process of faster recruitment of follicles over a period of time? And we don't know that. And does that lead to exhaustion much earlier? And we don't know that. So that's in short a very interesting subject, looking at what would repeated egg collections do with AMH levels. Now, if you like this talk, please share it, and please like the page and then share it, because the aim of this entire teaching series is to try and spread evidence-based knowledge across so that it improves your clinical practice. Thank you very much.